Welcome to the Marketing for Learning podcast, the show where we ditch the fluff, drop the jargon, and help people professionals just like you think a little bit more like marketers. Well, hello, welcome to the Marketing for Learning podcast. Hannah, I wasn't trying to make you laugh that time.
Welcome.
Make it weird. So, we are back. Obviously, we've had a small hiatus. We've had a little break over summer, as, well, you guys probably have too, hopefully. But we are back to school now. It's September. The children have resumed school time, and therefore it's time to start learning a little bit more about marketing for learning. Hence why we're here. So, as you may have already heard from my random intro, Hannah Clark is also here with me. Nearly said Bottoms still.
I was going to say, full name as well. Okay, hi everyone. Normally I'm just Han.
And Ashley Hinchcliffe. What, you haven't been here for a while. Maybe they've forgotten who we are.
Maybe. I doubt it.
So, obviously there's been kind of like nothing happening and a lot happening all at the same time. It's been a lot of people we speak to. It's a really strange time in our world at the moment. There's this significant consolidation of people functions occurring in a lot of enterprise organizations. L&D, I see redundancies and open to work banners pretty much every day.
And there's also the other side of that as well, that those in people roles, HR roles, are dealing with those redundancies as well, which adds another layer. I know in the Women in WhatsApp community, there's been a lot of talk of people that have it, like they're having to do the legwork behind those redundancies too. So even if you aren't directly impacted, there's still that vibe, isn't there? And it's been going on for a couple of months now.
Maybe even longer. I would say some like May time it's been like that. So my thoughts today are really to kind of talk about how we actually can, or first of all, why we should be still doing marketing in these periods and phases of change. Because obviously, if we're just focusing on firefighting and BAU, in that time, there's a very large void of silence with your employees. So we obviously want to talk a little bit more about the purpose of marketing, particularly in a changeable employment environment, especially in organizations that are undergoing significant shifts in ways of working, such as introduction of Gen AI, but also, loss of manpower and resource and budget from the people function perspective. And then I really just wanted to chat a bit more about what campaigns in 2025 look like, because there's some interesting things that have gone viral this year, such as K-pop Demon Hunters. And
I've still managed to avoid that. I still haven't watched it.
Why?
I can't.
Why?
I tried. I've got 3 minutes in twice.
Give it 5 and you'll be sucked in.
You're so disappointed in me. I can see it in your face right now.
You know what? The music's just so catchy. But anyway, so what makes things stick? And how can we use those aspects within campaigns to still create resonance in what is probably an even busier, noisier business than last year?
Yeah. As if we thought that was possible.
Yeah, somehow. But less people, more expectation, that's a burden, isn't it, really? So let's look a little bit at the world that our folk are in at the moment. Right, so we've already alluded to the fact that there is just so much upheaval in people teams at the moment. We've seen there's just a pause on decision making almost.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. A pause on decision making and almost like an external crisis of what should we be focusing on? So things that did have the green light and were going ahead have almost gone on pause as well, to go, actually, wait, is this the right thing to be doing right now? And there's just a lot of indecisiveness, and then layering that with all of the organisational changes that are happening and all of this new technology that's coming in and changing things. And really, if we're just honest, like the political landscape we're living in, like the world is really bloody crazy right now. That all has such an impact on people functions, whether you're in HR, L&D, talent, whatever it is. It's a tricky time out there right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, what do we do with that, right? Because that obviously naturally shifts our workloads. You know, if we're looking from a learning and development lens, the business still is going to expect a certain amount of reskilling, upskilling, skill support, knowledge acquisition, onboarding, leadership
perhaps
development.
Even more as well. If we're getting headcount cuts, people need to be doing more with less. And okay, that more is the output, but the less is the people. So we need those people to be upskilled into new things that they weren't perhaps doing before. And that's a burden on us and the individuals as well.
Yeah. So we're in this scenario where it's very difficult to be strategic because the business is kind of on a pause, a breather, waiting to see what the economy does. And that's really impacting business strategies, which as a subsequent result impacts our people strategies. So what do we do if we've got our tech ecosystem, our tech ego stack? You can see we haven't done a podcast in a while. We've got our tech ego stack, and we've got lots of off-the-shelf stuff. We've got some blended programs. We've got a leadership program. We've got an accelerating manager stuff. We've got a big platform. What do we do with all that? It's all there. We've committed to it. We're in contracts with it. But the business is telling us, like, don't do anything strategic right now.
Yeah.
Don't make any big changes. Don't make any big choices. We don't know what your budget's going to be. And we certainly don't know where you should be spending it.
Yeah. I think the thing that we can categorically say is we shouldn't be shoving our head in the sand. We shouldn't just be going, okay, we do nothing then, folding our arms and sitting back. We still need to be engaging people. We still need to be building that relationship with our employees to make them realise that, particularly learning, it's not just a support function. It is a support function, but you know what I mean? It's not just there as, oh, I need to go and do some training, but actually it's there to support and guide you and push you forward, and in uncertain times, develop yourself. I think as much as perhaps organisations are saying don't be strategic and don't do anything big and big bang and whizzy, our people are looking at us right now going, well, what about me? And learning is a great way to say this is about you, because whether they have a job at your organisation in a year or not, the things they learn today will benefit them. They can take that with them. Once they've learned it, it's theirs. They own it. So I think it's actually time for L&D to step up and build those relationships en masse with the audience to say, hey, look, we're still here. We're still here to help you. It's definitely not the time for silence.
And I think when you say, like, it's not a service function, what I interpret that as is it's not a transactional relationship. And it's not really like a place for triage.
Yeah.
You know, if we want to move away from we need X L&D team, so you need to do this, then we need to move away from that kind of triage environment and reactionary learning, reactionary marketing, so on and so forth. And, you know, like I said at the very beginning there, the void of silence grows every single time we choose to not do any level of marketing. And if your marketing is, again, just you have no time, you're firefighting, so it's very reactive, it's more comms, new stuff's here, go and explore or whatever. It's very passive, and it's very unlikely to evoke emotion and evoke an action. Because the fundamentals of campaigns stand true and are always purposeful, particularly in these chaotic change rift environments where there's just so much, it's a really tumultuous scenario. People need consistent visibility over an idea, an action, a product, a thought, in order to actually spark ideas, raise awareness, and then actually eventually make them take action.
Yeah. Well, we've spoken so much about how marketing is as much about building that relationship and building trust with our audience. as it is promoting your content. Like that brand building piece, that making yourself visible piece is so, so important. If we take away L&D and all the business stuff, if you're going through a really rubbish time and your friend goes silent on you, when things get better, you don't want to be friends with that person. You're not going to rely on that person. So if we just go silent and leave our people to it after saying, like, we're here to help you and we've done all this great stuff and now things are a bit rocky, we're just going to stick our head in the sand and go silent, we're damaging that trust that we have built if we have built it previously. We're damaging that reputation that we have built. We're damaging our brand by not being there for people. And that's why we must continue with the fundamentals of campaigning and marketing. As you just said, Ash, we can't just go, oh no, things are a bit tricky right now, so we don't care about all that relationship stuff we've already tried to do. Bye. Like, we need to make sure we're still there.
But what do we do? Do we just promote single modules? Do we try and get people to go and visit the LMS? Like, you know, was that noise at your house?
That was the office opposite getting their food delivery. It was their lunch van. I didn't know that you could ever pick that up through the mic, so that's something new.
That is the early lunch delivery, but there we are.
It is only 20 to 11 for anyone listening to this.
Strap on the snack bag. It's time. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm intentionally being a bit obtuse and playing devil's advocate, but I would put myself in the shoes of a people function leader and think, if they're listening to this, okay, well, yeah, I do need to still, like, continue to do marketing. Yes, you do. Absolutely. You can't. If you go silent, you are forgotten. That is the end of it.
Yeah.
So what kind of stuff should I be doing? How do I create a campaign out of nothing, really? Do I just pick random modules that I email about once a week? Oh, there we go. I've got some consistent messaging. Right?
Please don't do that.
Why?
I think, as much as we're saying, oh, do we make a campaign out of nothing? You're not making a campaign out of nothing. We always start our campaign ideation process with thinking about the audience. Think about what's going on for your people right now. What do they care about? What's going to help them? And that's where your campaign should start. Not from, hey, we just got a 4,000 course library and we've chucked it in our LMS. I'm going to send you one email per week for the next 4,000 weeks. Think about something that unifies it. Still empower the end user to own what they're doing. So you don't say, go and take this course on Excel. Maybe the themes are productivity. Maybe it's efficiency. Maybe it's personal development and career growth that isn't attached to your business. It's hard to blanket say what that might be because I don't know your audience. But understanding the audience and what they're currently going through and identifying their motivations, their goals, what do they want, what are their pain points, how can you solve that? That could be the unifier to your campaign. We worked with an organisation last year where essentially people didn't know what learning was. They all had different ideas. And we had a whole campaign about learning is. And it was enabling people to give their opinions and really put learning at the forefront without us saying, you must go and take this 7-hour e-learning module, or you must go and sit in a classroom for a day. It was empowering people, but also still bringing learning to the forefront. And I think it's those kind of campaigns right now that would be more beneficial for organisations rather than, I don't know, those, like you just said, Ash, send an email every week about a different e-learning module. That's not going to excite people. That would just end up in the bin, won't it?
It would go into the void.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the quality of the marketing is important, right? It's not just, oh, well, if I just do something regularly, that's enough. No, because again, we've talked about subject lines and getting things open. Like, doesn't matter how many of those you send. If no one reads them, it's still kind of moot. So, you know, I agree with the sentiment of like establishing a little bit more about what learning looks like in your organization, what values are important within the organization, how we live those values. If we're looking at, okay, we don't want to, you know, we say quite a lot, avoid the programmatic approach where you're just promoting a specific program. Well, then maybe we should be looking at learning culture And again, that's always very elusive. No L&D person I've ever spoken to has not said something around how they want a culture of learning in their organization, but very few attain that.
And
I
very
think
few can define that as well, what they want.
Yes.
It's like a big, broad word of like, I want a learning culture. What's that? I don't know.
All they want is people proactively learning.
Yeah.
Rather than passive. Rather than learning being something that happens to someone, I interpret a learning culture as the majority of your employees have a really strong, open mindset. So they're open to learning. They're open to changing the ways of working. They're more agile. So again, learning isn't sitting in front of a screen clicking next. It can be developing agility to manage a really complex change like we're seeing now with the advent of Gen AI. If you're obtuse and you have a fixed mindset, that's going to make it quite difficult for you to learn a new way of doing and being at work. So to me, a learning culture is really about the sentiment of the person and how that can kind of be lived in a variety of different ways. You know, it's not just this formal learning, coaching, mentoring. Never has been more important, in my opinion, either, because of hybrid working and remote working. I think people want those connections with the organization, with peers, with people that can help them accomplish their goals outside of their manager. So identifying what a learning culture is for you is super crucial, but, you know, why not then build on that and look at how, in a period of really unusual times, what can you do to feed the notion of developing a more, it's not a open mindset. There's literally a word for it. There's a whole book on like a fixed mindset and
growth.
Yeah, growth mindset. Thank you. See, that's why we work together. So
we have one brain between us.
Yes, I know. If that. So, you know, to me, campaigns at the moment need to happen. They need to be, if we're going to look at the basics and fundamentals of a campaign and what it needs to entail at the moment, it needs to span a period of time, at least 3 months. It needs to be multi-channel, so not just email, not just some push notifications from your LMS, not just automated compliance emails. We need to, you know, push out a little bit beyond that and try and have a multi-channel approach to hitting our people with this message and this idea.
And I think
on top of that, sorry, go ahead.
When you're talking about multi-channel, we need to talk about multi-touch as well. Just because you've sent one email one time on a topic and then you've put a poster up and then you put a Slack message up, you need to do all of those things repeatedly to really capture attention. You can't just assume because you've done it on a multitude of channels once, it's enough. You need to make sure, like we said, 3 months minimum. I love it when I have this conversation on the masterclass. That's not called the masterclass anymore. Our training program, because people are like, what, 3 months? Like, yes, and that's the minimum you want to be running something for to really get that ultimate end goal of behaviour change. But multi-touch is really important as well. Just because you've done it on multiple channels, if you've only done it once or twice on multiple channels, you're not going to get the impact of a real campaign. Yeah,
so what you mean by multi-touch is using the same channel many times with a unified message, but not the same message.
No.
So, you know,
please don't send the same email 6 times.
No. That's why we develop hooks and taglines, and then you can obviously have variables that sit around that. So if we look at that aspect of a campaign, it's 2025. TikTok still reigns supreme, I think. Video is still very important. What would you say are the essential components of a campaign, given what we're talking about in terms of change, in terms of the complex organizational landscape, political landscape, blah, blah, blah?
I think, and this isn't just marketing for learning, I think this is just my opinion on marketing as a whole at the moment. There's this realism that's coming through everything. Being really on the nose and just being frank. Obviously that doesn't mean sending out really boring messages, but like I think it was NatWest, and I really hope I haven't got the banks the wrong way round. NatWest put a sign up in their window being like, Nationwide are leaving Tunbridge Wells, let's say. Isn't it time you left Nationwide? And like, they're just really hitting the nail on the head to say, we're in your town, they're not. Why don't you come to us? There's a lot of that marketing out there that's just really on the nose, really like, hey, this is the reality of the world we're living in. And because it is pretty rubbish for everyone, I don't know a single person that's like, yeah, life's great, I've got loads of money, life is brilliant. Like, that's just not how people are feeling right now. So I think that hyper-realism is a definite trend for 2025. And I think it's something we can bring into marketing for learning. We need to be human. And we've been talking about that for years. But you don't need to sugarcoat everything. And I think that, for me, is one of the big themes of marketing in today's day and age. Just being, I don't even know if realism's the right word, but just being really honest.
And I think that authenticity has always resonated. But I think, especially with all the world of, again, AI, fake news, things like I saw someone do a post on LinkedIn the other day, and it was like, oh, I ran into Taylor Swift, and she shared this picture of her with Taylor Swift, and then at the end basically said, this image is generated from AI. I was using, I can't remember what the Google is it something banana?
Yeah, I have heard a lot about something banana recently, and I don't know what it is.
It's some image generator through Google. I haven't explored it. I've only been tinkering with Midjourney. But even so, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not now. So grounding our statements in reality, being quite candid about the fact that they're going through really difficult times and that there's a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty, and that's probably making them feel a little bit uncomfortable at work. That's just in the organization, never mind the whole world outside of that they're exploring. Child muck. Never clean. Yes. So, I just think that, like, basing it in their reality is going to have a lot stronger resonance right now. I think, truthfully, people don't want something aspirational right now. They want something, like, their motivations are never going to change. They only want stuff that's going to make their lives better, easier, faster, more efficient, more money, whatever, right? So, but we need to kind of, I think, ground that in their reality a lot more than maybe we do. I think we still kind of use those business messages, and again, this goes back to understanding the audience. But even if you don't have time to do market research, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what's probably going on for people in your business. How do you feel at work? Probably a good place to start.
Yeah. And I think if you look at social media and social media marketing, there are two real strong camps, and one's losing popularity quite quickly. You've got this aspirational, almost escapism thing, like how the internet went crazy because Taylor Swift got engaged, and it was everywhere, and it was so beautifully set up. And I think I've mentioned Grace Beverley on this podcast before, and I love her podcast, but she's just had a really extravagant wedding, and everyone's like wooing over this really fancy wedding. But things like that are losing their popularity because they seem so unattainable, and they basically just fuel us with anger of like, it's not fair. They've just sunk probably £300,000 on a wedding, and I'm struggling to make ends meet. Like, we need to make sure that, especially in the world of learning and HR and people functions, let's not fall into this escapism kind of out of reality bucket. Yes, some people are still living the higher life, but like you said, like, really ground it in that authenticity and just, hey, we get what you're going, like, what you're going through right now. It's really important right now.
When we talk about like that brand affinity and that trust and things like that, I really think that rather than emphasizing your products right now, you should be emphasizing building trust, building respect, building advocacy with your people, because as things mellow, maybe,
hopefully,
then you might be in a stronger position to, if you build up that meaningful relationship with these people, then when you do have something to say, they're much more likely to listen. But right now, you're not going to earn their respect or their eyes, ears, hearts, or minds by just sending out perfunctory comms, because they are not going to read it and it's just going to go in the bin. And that's not changed, but I do think the organizational landscape has, and therefore people are even more likely to tune it out than normal because they're overstretched, they're spread really thin, they're doing more with less people, so on and so forth, right?
Going back to your original question of like, what is a campaign in 2025? For me, we really need to get the fundamentals right. So obviously I don't get internal marketing from any big organisations, because that'd be weird if you started sending me marketing emails where it's just the two of us and you'd be like, Hannah, take your training. Be weird. But what I have been getting a lot of is marketing from learning tech vendors.
Yep.
Please answer the what's in it for me. I don't care if you've got a new
We're
feature
talking
in
to
your
you,
platform.
the LPI.
But honestly, I've seen so many different organisations recently. I saw one that was like, we have what was it? Something to do with PDP, and honestly, like I couldn't think of a single L&D that would be like, oh, I need to go buy that platform now because they've got an extra feature about PDPs in it. Like, no. Think
you can't
about
even
your
remember
audience.
it.
I can't actually remember what organisation it was either. I do get a lot. We need to be grounded in the basics.
Yeah. You know, but like we see there's another vendor that we've talked about their emails in particular, and they tend to do a lot of feature-focused demos. Oh, this is a new thing that's happening. Come and look at our new product and platform. And I do wonder how many people attend these types of events, because I just can't imagine doing a session on, here, come and look at, we've got our new campaign in the box. Just come and look at all of the bits.
Come look
at
it.
Like,
yeah.
You know what? I don't get it.
I was writing a blog post for us yesterday, and I actually alluded to this topic, and I was like, I need to write a LinkedIn post about this. I think a lot of people will turn up in the first instance. As we know, I watched one of those webinars, what was it, a week or so ago, and I said to you about 10 minutes in, I don't know why I'm watching this, because
They're
it was
still bumbling about.
Yeah, they were just showing off their product or talking about themselves, and it wasn't engaging at all. Because you get a high number of people, and this goes for internal marketing too, acting in the first instance, that does not mean that you should repeat that. Because if you've got people, for example, you sent an email and you've said, hey, this wonderful new thing, come and check it out, and you've got that email spot on that's made somebody want to engage, and then they click through and they realise it was a load of old codswallop and they don't want to continue engaging, that's not good marketing. If you're getting new people every week, but you're getting 50 people every week, that's not a good sign. You want to build relationships. You want to build habits. You want to make people come back time again. You want to be seen as the authority. That's what we need to be focusing on. Just because you got a huge amount of click-throughs on one email, if that led to nothing, that email didn't really work. And you need to go back to the drawing board. And this is what I meant when we need to be grounded in the fundamentals of what a campaign actually is, if we want it to work now, because people are more skeptical than ever. They are more selfish than ever, in the nicest way, because so am I. I'm getting these emails, I'm going, why do I care? Delete. We need to be really grounded in who our audience is, what's in it for them, and how we're actually grabbing their attention.
Yeah, and I think further to your point, this comes back to journey mapping. We have a guide on that we'll put in the show notes. And top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel. Very rudimentary approach, but I'm working with a vendor at the moment and helping them evolve their positioning. And so we've done some work on their audience segments. We've done a value proposition. And like, for example, the webinar that you just described, you're showing features and essentially a demo. So that's very bottom of the funnel. People who probably are like considering buying, in my opinion, you should just still do that like one-on-one, or being handled by the sales team or the account managers. But if you're gonna do that as a marketing thing, be aware that you're targeting people who should be close to transacting.
Yeah.
And position it in that way. It's not how people make decisions at all. So you can't just like, oh, I've never heard of this product. I want a demo of it. They want to know, well, what does it do and how does it help me? And like, do I need this at all? And how would it sit in with my existing tech stack? And so on and so forth. Like, so you can't have top of the funnel positioning and a bottom of the funnel product and a bottom of the funnel marketing tool. It doesn't work. It just creates discord and no one engages or it flops. Sorry, you were going to say.
And a great example of that was when we were looking for our learning platform. Obviously, we were really focused on community side, so we didn't go for one of the big LMS vendors. But there was so many organisations that we essentially ruled out because we couldn't understand what the benefits were. They were all too keen to give us a demo. I don't care about that at that stage. I was thinking big picture. What could I build of this? What would this look like for Maths Labs in 2-3 years' time? What are the possibilities? Then show me how. But if you're leading with the how, you're losing people. And the worst thing you can do, and this is what that vendor did when I went to their webinar the other week, they pitched it as top of the funnel. They delivered it as bottom of the funnel. And I can't have been the only person sat there thinking, I don't know why I'm here. This isn't what I thought it was. I didn't finish the webinar. I don't know when I logged out, but I didn't make it to the end.
So translating that into internal marketing, people function terms, you can't just start pushing, like, you have been silent for a while. Things are busy. You know, it's been summer. There's a lot of other stuff going on. You can't just start pushing out messaging and comms saying, here's new stuff. Here's, go visit the LMS, or, whoa, come and look at the features of this new management program. They're never saying that, but you get my point. You need to be much more on this, the what is learning aspect, or, how can we develop ourselves, ways that we can do that without sitting in front of a screen and clicking through e-learning. This is top of the funnel, raising awareness about who you are, building trust over consistent, meaningful communications. Over time, that moves people from awareness into interest, desire, and having a stronger willfulness to actually engage with learning content, maybe more structured formal learning. But we can't just skip those steps because we want to.
And I think typically internally when I work with L&D professionals and we're talking through what they've already done, we think we're skipping those steps to make it quicker for us. But that's not the case at all. We're actually ruining the trust, making the whole process longer because we need to go right back to the beginning and build the trust again. So by skipping these steps that you think, oh, I don't really need to do that, I'm just going to push them to the LMS, you're not actually saving any time. You're making your own life harder long term. We need to start getting the fundamentals right. We need to get the groundwork in and build upon it rather than just, hope for the best and say, please go to the LMS. And then when they land there, they don't know what they're looking for anyway.
No, you're degrading what little trust or experience you have anyway. So, I think we're going to spend the next few weeks talking a little bit more about campaigns.
No one's available to take your call. Please hang up and try again.
Right, so being entirely candid, my Mac freaked out, my microphone disconnected, and unfortunately Hannah was left by herself. So the remainder of that recording is mostly just Hannah laughing. So what I'm going to say is, to finish off this session, campaigns in a changeable organizational environment are just as crucial, if not even more crucial. If your business is undergoing significant change, if your L&D and people function is undergoing a restructure, and there is a shift in the way that you work and how you do things, particularly in the landscape of Gen AI, it's absolutely vital that we don't go quiet on our audiences. Like Hannah said, if you're going through a tough time and there's a friend that's not really around and they're only there for the good times, you don't really want to be their friend anymore. We need to be with our people, supporting our people, and very present, very visible in these periods of disruption and these periods of shifting. If we ever want to build trust with our audiences and have them have confidence in us and what we do and the products that we deliver to them, times like these are the real opportunities to show up, to add value, and build a really strong presence and learning brand with our audiences. So on that note, apologies for two things. Number one, my very squeaky chair in that episode. I will never sit on that chair again when I record a podcast. And secondly, for the rather abrupt ending. As we said, we had a bit of a summer break. Our brains aren't quite in gear yet, but we're getting there. So thanks for bearing with us. We'll be back with another episode. We are focusing heavily on campaigns over the next couple of sessions. We have stopped doing the series approach, namely because it's hard for us to stay front of mind and stay present and maintain listenership when we disappear for periods on end. So we are going to revert back to the weekly/bi-weekly podcast episodes. So you should be seeing a little bit more of us. As always, if you find this useful, please make sure you follow us, subscribe on the appropriate platform. Also, leaving reviews and sharing this with your peers is some of the best ways to ensure that this podcast continues to go. Obviously, it's free for your ears, but it does take our time. So if you can help raise us up and spread the word, we would appreciate it. Okay, see you guys soon. Bye.